Is there treasure really buried on Oak Island? If so, who put it there? Did my guest host today find the treasure a decade ago and not tell anyone? Stick around and you might just find out the answers to these questions on this episode of Unsolved Mysteries Solved. Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. It is Thursday again, and that means a mystery about to get solved. With me today, filling in for Colt, is Vince King. And actually, I didn't even ask you, is that cool? Like, is that what you want to be known by?
That's perfectly fine. Everyone in the podcasting usually calls me Vince, Vinny, or shithead, whatever makes it feel better about life. I deserve every one of them.
That was one of the questions I meant to ask before starting, and I completely forgot. Anyway, Vince is a good friend of mine, and Vince, why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself?
I am a book author, podcaster, audio drama writer, pretty much multimedia creator at this point. It's what the title should be going by, I think. But you can find me on all sorts of different little podcasts, such as Three Husks and Personalized and Dancing and so much more.
All right. Well, Vince, I guess, let's just jump right into this. Do you know anything about Oak Island, like the Oak Island Money Pit?
All right. So what I know is that there was a TV show, something that was popping like maybe a couple years ago on one of those Discovery channels or some shit about like, we have solved the real case of the island. That's I only saw the ad for it. That was it.
Yeah, it was like called The Curse of Oak Island or something, and it was these guys that were looking for the money or for whatever. Yeah, it's really freaking popular. I never watched it, but I know a lot of people who did. Yeah, like I said, we'll just go ahead and jump into it. So, in the late 18th century, sometime between like 1795, 1799, a man named Daniel McGinnis discovered a depression on Oak Island up in Nova Scotia. And he was either fishing or looking for a spot to build a farm. Like, this is before it was like actually recorded, so this is all word of mouth. But he had heard a long time ago when he was younger that there was treasure buried on the island. And he had heard that it was buried there by the crew of the great Scottish pirate Captain Kidd. Have you ever heard of Captain Kidd?
Yes, I've heard of him.
Yeah, he's one of the more famous ones, kind of like Blackbeard, Now, McGinnis believed that this depression matched up with the stories he had heard in his youth. And so he enlisted the help of two men known as John Smith and Anthony Vaughn.
No, I'll say, okay, John Smith. I can see that.
Yeah. When they excavated the depression, about 2 feet down, they discovered a layer of flagstones. As they continued to excavate, they went down to about 30 feet, and reportedly they were finding oak platforms every 10 feet. And I remember when I was doing my research, they were talking about, like, some people thought that this was just like rubble that had been buried there, but apparently it was it looked like it was a man-made structure, so it was obviously put there for a reason. About every 10 feet they found these oak platforms, and they also reported that there were tool markings like on the walls of the pit. Well, they only got down to about 30 feet, and then they stopped because of what they called suspicious dread. I don't know what that means. I just have no idea what that means. But
they got tired of digging. That's that dread. They're like, oh, we got to dig more.
I mean, 30 feet's not that far down. Well, then in 1802, the group known as the Onslow Company took up the excavation. They continued the excavation all the way down to about 90 feet. And they also noted that every 10 feet, those oak platforms continue to appear. And they also found charcoal and clay and coconut fibers. And under all that, they found this flat stone with an inscription that nobody could decipher. Even though they didn't know what it said, they were encouraged to keep digging because they figured, this is man-made, this is significant, gotta be close. And side note, like decades later, some professor who had an interest in the Oak Island myth, he believed that he had figured out what the cipher said, and he declared that it said 40 feet below, 2 million pounds are buried. That has never been confirmed that that's what it said. That's just what he said. And then so they kept digging, figuring that this was a significant find. And less than a yard short of the 100-foot mark, the pit suddenly flooded with about 60 feet of water for like unknown reasons.
Shit.
Yeah. And it's believed that it like they just hit like a an aquifer or something, but yeah, it just flooded for unknown reasons. And so they tried to dig another shaft to the side to like come at it from the side or from underneath. That one flooded too. And eventually they just gave up. So now we're going to jump ahead again because there's been so many people who have tried this, and we're just kind of trying to get through it all. Around 1850, the Truro Company decided they were going to try their luck with the money pit, and all in all, they drugged a bunch of people, and it just became a whole thing. No, all in all, they dug 3 more shafts, all of them reaching around 110 feet before flooding.
Jesus.
Right. So, like, in my mind, at this point, it's like, why? Just stop. Like, it's clear you're not going to find anything because it's just going to keep flooding. Even if there's something down there, you're not going to get to it.
Right.
Like, just stop. You're wasting so much freaking money on this.
You think they just put snorkels on and just keep digging? Like, we got this shit. Let this flood come.
Just take buckets down there and just, all right, lift it up. Next up was the Oak Island Association. And this one was significant because they accidentally caused a collapse in the original shaft that had been dug, and it caused a lot of the oak platforms to just fall down to a lower level. And by this time, the pit had gained a reputation for being cursed. And this was only bolstered by the fact that the Oak Island Association, a young man was killed when a boiler pump that he was working on exploded and accidentally killed him.
Shit.
So now, you know, like everything keeps flooding. The platforms have fallen away. Somebody has died. And what's crazy is that, like, over time it gained this reputation, you know, like I said, of being cursed. And the story goes that 7 people have to die in the pit before the money can be found. And yeah, like
7 people. Okay, so how many do we have so far?
I think, like, at this point in the story, just the one. I think today there have been 7 people who have died, but the 7th one is being contradicted, I guess, because the guy didn't actually die in the pit. He just died while he was working, you know, while they were digging or something. But like, it's really funny because there were some of the workers, I guess, had reported back then that they were having these fever dreams every night where this light would shine on the pit, and this booming voice would come out of nowhere, like from everywhere, saying, "7 will perish before my treasure can be claimed," or something like that, you know, something to that effect.
Right.
I think that's where the 7 have to die thing comes from. But I don't know. For me, it's like, of course you're gonna say shit like that because I don't know. What were you about to say?
7 people. All right, 7 people. That's what a weird. I mean, so like, do they have to die by drowning in the water? Do they have to die by just starving, just sitting in whatever?
I think it just has to be like while they're working on the pit, or near the pit or something. I don't know. But the second death happened on March 26th in 1897 when a worker named Maynard Kaiser fell to his death in the pit.
Rip.
I think he was climbing down into it and lost his footing, and he fell and died. And so it went for years, on and on and on, adventure after adventure. You know, everybody was rushing to Oak Island, one company after another, to try their luck at finding this alleged treasure. And some started new pits in different areas, and I believe they would believing that the first one was a decoy or some shit, or they're trying to get at it from beneath, like the first people. Apparently, I was talking to somebody about this the other day. A while back, I was on a different podcast, and this dude was telling me that, like, they think that they're actually on the wrong island now. Right? And, like, in my mind, it's like, no, you're not on the wrong island. It just doesn't exist, but you're telling yourself you're on the wrong island because you don't want to admit that you spent all this time. Like, you know, they have a meeting and they're like, guys, I don't think this is here, but we spent so much money. Okay, well, what do we do about it? All right, here's what we do. We're going to tell everybody it's on a different island. like just up north, and that we were just on the wrong island the whole time, so we can keep this going.
Can you imagine like Captain Kidd showing up on that island, you know, long before all this happened? He's like, you know what? I'm gonna put a chest here, but you know what? I'm just gonna put it by this tree. No one's really gonna fuck with this island, anyways.
Right?
And so that one guy that was like went looking for it, like he was in the wrong location, and he started all this shit about it. And Captain Kidd's treasure's just buried by a tree, just like not even like 10 feet down. It's just sitting there with dirt on it.
Yeah. He didn't even actually dig a hole. He just started shoveling dirt on top of it. This whole time. There's 2 million pounds worth of, well, I guess it'd be even more now, but that's, yeah. So here's where we get the next 4 deaths, and they happen really fast, like all in the same day. There was one guy named Robert Restel, and he came to the island in 1959 with his son Robert Jr. and brought a work partner with him. And I can't remember if he bought the entire island or just the part where the pit was or whatever. But they started working on the pit. They were searching for the treasure until about August 17th, 1965. And this is when Robert Sr., he was looking down into the pit for whatever reason and was overcome by hydrogen sulfide fumes from the hole, lost consciousness, and fell to his death. Robert Jr. witnessed this, rushed to try to save his father, overcome by the same gas, fell to his death. A few minutes later, 2 more workers rushed over to try and save Robert Jr., overcome by the same fumes, lost conscious, fell to their deaths. So at this point, 6 people have been claimed by the pit. And I like to imagine that, like, every time somebody dies, you just hear this booming, like, laughter. And, like, you know, at this point, it's like, 6 down, 1 to go. You just hear laughter from the sky and shit. I don't know. And even to this day, a lot of people have tried to find it. Like we were saying earlier, there's that show about it. And I think recently, well, relatively recently, one of the people from that show died. But I don't think he died near the pit. He just died of, like, I don't know, heart complications or something. I didn't do a whole lot of research into that.
Can you imagine God just like, being up there, and he like when he was making Earth, and he's like, you know what? I don't know what I'm gonna do with this island. I think I'm just gonna put some, you know what? I'll put some board games on it. I'll figure things out. I'll play along with it here and there, and I don't know. Maybe some humans will join me at some point.
So this is one giant board game for God. Yeah. Oh my God, I like that idea. So, like, at this point, let me hear what you're thinking. Like, what are your thoughts so far? Because then we're gonna get into, like, the theories of how the hole was made. And...
I don't think there's any treasure there. I think all this. I want to say all this is just coincidental, but then again, I don't believe that myself now. So, like, we talked about that plaque that had something carved in it that no one apparently was able to translate, right?
Yeah. It was just like a flat rock. It had some kind of weird writing on it.
Where is that plaque now?
I don't know. Let me find out.
I assume it's not buried under all that fucking water, right?
Oh, I doubt it is.
Have they actually taken, like, you know, now that we've moved along with technology, have they taken, like, I don't know, excavators and shit there and wasn't that what the show was about? Was them actually taking technology and actually using powered, you know, machinery to dig on that island?
I believe so. I know that they've had digital imaging done, and even like back in the 60s, there was one company that sent cameras down and stuff and didn't really show anything. It just basically exactly what you would expect, a hole with wooden platforms.
The platforms is what gets me. Like, I don't understand why that's there. I cannot think of the only other thing I think of is like maybe some natives or whoever was in that area, you know, long before Captain Kidd was just, they had something like, I don't know, maybe a village or something, and there was a form of an earthquake or some disastrous event that you know, shifted or, you know, reshaped what the island or essentially their village was.
Yeah, and I mean, that is kind of one of the theories as to why the pit exists. But at the same time, I don't know whether that rock says what the guy thought that it said or not. Like, you have to wonder why that was just randomly there.
Do you remember, like, back in, was it 2012? All right, I think it was 2013. Yeah, and then there was the same thing with early 2000s. Was it Y2K when they all thought like we're always gonna end and stuff?
Mm-hmm.
I bet that's exactly what's going on with that island. That one guy was like, "All right, we're seeing all this shit. Oh, wait a minute, I was wrong. I'm sorry, I made that one up too."
Oh, I got my math kind of wrong. Yeah, apparently the world's gonna end 3 days from now instead. Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of on track with you there. I don't know that I believe there's anything on the island. Honestly,
I don't either. I think it's just some twisted fate that there was some form of, like I said, some building there that just got shifted and moved around in the dirt, and
right.
and maybe, and you know what, maybe it was some weird ass Minecraft house made out of wood, and they put a sign on the front that said, you know, "Fuck off, Jimmy" or something like that, and
leave me alone, Great Bruce.
yeah, and then when the Earth got, you know, twisted or what the hell happened, you know, it all got rumbled up, and the sign got a little, you know, hard to read, and so yeah, I mean that's fate.
Yeah. I don't know. Like my favorite theory that I've read. What was it? It wasn't one when I put in my notes. I just thought it was really funny. Well, let's go through actual theories and maybe it'll come to me. I can't remember exactly what it was. It was hilarious though. So one of the theories is that this is a natural sinkhole. It's just one of the natural sinkholes on the island. There's no treasure, like I said, you know, like this is rubble that has been buried in the sinkhole. But again, that seems to not be true just because of how well formed these platforms are. They seem to be man-made.
Right.
So theories about what might be buried there is there's Captain Kidd. It's believed that maybe treasure from Blackbeard is buried there. It is believed that perhaps the Templars have buried things there to keep them away from like the Muslims and the Spanish and all that, like the Ark of the Covenant maybe, or the Holy Grail. It's believed that maybe Marie Antoinette's jewels are buried there. Unfinished Shakespearean works. That one really, I'm not sure where that comes from. Like the rest of it's treasure, and then oh yeah, you know, there's unfinished works of Shakespeare down there. Like, but why though? Like, why would he have? I don't understand why someone would go from England all the way to Nova Scotia to bury unfinished Shakespearean works.
That's right.
Makes no sense. So this is the point in the podcast where we come up with a solution. Like we solve this sucker. So
all right.
Usually I give it to, you know, if I'm presenting, I give it to Colt first. And then we compare notes. So lay it on me. What do you think? What's going on here?
I think I'm going to stick to my somewhat theory I mentioned earlier. I do think that the first of all, the wood they were finding is from some form of a building of a sort, that just happened to be, you know, broken down and just, you know, over time just, you know, just sunk in, you know, like obviously there's theory of it being a sinkhole, and that's another option too, you know, like, you know, the island just it's just a big shithole that just keeps morphing, you know, or not morphing, but terramorphing itself, basically, you know, not by some man-made option, but just over time, like, and it is what it is, and no one went to the island anymore, and you know, everyone just started making rumors about it. Like, somewhere in North Carolina, when I was a kid, we were on a lake, and my mom or my stepdad, one of the two, had told me that there was this island that everyone referred to as the Goat Island, and because someone had claimed they saw a goat on the island in the middle of the lake. I never saw the goat. We even stopped off by there. I never saw a goat there, but everyone referred to it as Goat Island.
They call this place Goat Island. I didn't see not one goddamn goat.
Yeah, like I swear to God, I was looking, like I got out looking. I'm like, so you telling me there's gonna be like a herd of goats here? Like somewhere in Florida, there's an island with iguanas on it, just everywhere. I've never been there, but you know, I've seen pictures of stuff and heard stories about it from friends that have been there. That's about as real as it'll get with the island thing to me.
Next, you're gonna tell me Ghost Island ain't got no ghosts? Come on, man.
Yeah. For real, can you imagine like someone, you know, like, you know what? Well, you know, someone, you're just riding like a son and his dad's with each other on the boat, and his son is asking like 80,000 annoying questions. And you know, one of them, he's like, "Dad, what's that island over there?" His dad's like, "I don't know. Whales live on that island, Jimmy." And so then he grew up his whole life thinking whales lived on the island. So he was telling everyone. So then everyone started assuming whales lived on that island.
I feel like that's how a lot of stupid legends get born. Like, God, what was it? When I was real young, we lived out in the country, and there was this little pond that like was near my grandpa's land because we lived on my grandpa's land. And there was this little pond about a mile away, and well, it wasn't even really a pond. It was more like a rock quarry that had filled with water. But my brother told me that there was a giant octopus that lived in there, and it would eat people who went swimming in it. And he said that he had heard that from one of his friends, who had heard it from another friend, who had heard it from their father, who had heard it from their father. And like, now that I'm old enough, I'm like, somebody probably just one day was like, like you were saying, like, Dad, what's in there? Oh, there's a giant octopus. It'll eat people. Don't go near it. And so it just became this urban legend that there's a giant octopus that lives in this thing. And all the adults are like, should we tell him? And they're like, no, it keeps them away from it so they don't drown to death. So let's just let them keep believing that there's a giant octopus in there that will eat them if they go in there. And like just little things like that. Like a friend of my dad's once told me there were trolls that lived under the house. And so anytime I got near the house, I would rush inside so the trolls couldn't get me. I think a lot of stupid urban legends start like that. Like just somebody playing a prank, or like you said, just a dad tired of a billion questions, just make something stupid up.
I do wish the Loch Ness Monster one is real. I don't know if I'm not saying it's not. I'm not saying it is. I'm not giving hope to anybody, but I always like the idea of that being real.
Yeah, there's a lot of like we try not to cover strictly paranormal things or like inherently paranormal things on here. There's a bunch of paranormal podcasts. There's a lot of stuff that suggests that maybe there was some kind of dinosaur-esque creature that lived in Loch Ness a long time ago, but it's probably long dead. Well, okay, so you're saying you think this is all just like urban legend, word of mouth type stuff?
Yeah, I do. I think that all the shit that's happened is just some form of coincidence. Like not like there's no special shit about this island. Obviously they would have found. I feel like especially now with all the technology and stuff we got, they would have found some trace of something on that island other than all the hell they've been finding. Yeah. I think, and I stick to my theory that the building was just like I said, just falling apart, just broken building, just sunk into the ground, especially being in a sinkhole.
Okay, I'm kind of with you. I think maybe this island was used as something like here's my theory. My theory is that a long time ago, this was used as a stash house type thing for pirates and the like. And I think over the years they like went back and got all their treasure. So like maybe there was treasure there at some point, and that's why this hole exists. But there's nothing there anymore because eventually, through word of mouth, like maybe like if it was Blackbeard, his crew knew it was buried there. Maybe when he died, the next captain to take over his ship, or somebody defected or something, and they went and grabbed all the treasure, and now it's not there anymore.
Right.
That's what I'm thinking. It's just that it was maybe like you remember Pirates of the Caribbean,
when Jack Sparrow and Elizabeth Swann were on the island and she burned all the rum. Oh yeah, I know. I remember that exactly.
Kind of like that. Like it was a rum runner island. This is where they stashed their treasure, but now it's all gone. That's what I'm thinking. So I think we're kind of on the same page. There's a lot of people who take this very seriously, though. Like there's a lot of people who 100% believe that there is a shitload of treasure buried somewhere on this island. And like you said, it's like, man, somebody would have found it by now. Like, y'all are dumb.
Yeah, exactly.
Y'all is stupid. Well, I guess this was a pretty short episode, but I mean, I can't say I'm surprised considering the topic that we chose. But there you have it, listeners. From these two mouths straight into your ear holes, you have heard that there is nothing on Oak Island except, like there's some kind of structure that was man-made there, but there's no treasure. And
there might be trees. You can get some trees.
I hope there's at least one oak tree on the island. Oak Island.
What a bitch if it isn't.
It's actually just full of like fur. Why did you call it Fur Island? We wanted to be ironic. Before we do the outro and everything, is there anything you want to plug, Vince? Anything you're currently working on you want people to know about?
So by now we'll have 2 episodes out of Personalized. one with Sarah Hughes and Abby Rose. It was, as we discussed, the state of Gravity Undone and what the coronavirus is doing to affect us. And then within, we'll have an actual interview out with Persephone as well.
What's the interview with Persephone about? Just about her life, or?
Oh yeah. See, on Personalized, I interview the guests, and we basically learn. It's the idea of getting the person behind the person. So we get very up close and personal. And I will say this for any of the Unsolved listeners right now: this episode of Personalized with Persephone, if you haven't already heard it yet, it is the most adult episode I will have out yet, and it is so fun. Persephone and I talk about a lot of adult stuff in our lives.
I can imagine. Persephone is for anybody who's listening, Persephone is isn't she like the leader of Postal Roach?
Yes.
Okay.
She's one of the co-founders.
She's one of the co-founders of Postal Roach and like Emperor Pigs Presents and all that, which we've run an ad for them here on the show before. And she does not hold anything back.
And I love it. I love it all about her. That's my type of person right there.
All right. Anything else you're currently working on, or?
No, that's it. Just Personalized for now is the only thing we have. I mean, that and Emperor Pigs Presents. I think the new episode should be out within, if not by now, then this coming tomorrow, Friday. It'll be out.
Okay.
So yeah, and look forward to that. But yeah, that's pretty much it. You can find me at King's Literature and everywhere else.
All right. Well, listeners, if you have an unsolved mystery that you'd like for us to solve on the podcast, you can send that suggestion to Mysteries Solved Podcast, all one word, at gmail.com. You can also send us compliments or death threats, whatever you want. You can find us on Facebook at Unsolved Mysteries Solved and on Twitter at Solved Podcast. And as usual, if you want to support the podcast, the best way to do that is right now is just keep listening. Tell everybody that you know to listen. Your friends, your family, the president, whoever you want. And go and rate and review the podcast because that does help us. We've been growing pretty steadily. We are up to about 125 downloads of each new episode per week. Like in a week cycle from the time it's released to the next one's released, it's about between 125 and 150 downloads. So we're slowly growing there, but anyway, and until next week, remember not to question us or you will be put down. It feels kind of cheap to say that without Colt here, but it's still true. And
you will be put down.
And stay tuned after the outro music fades out for a brief message from our friends over at Emperor Pigs. Thanks for listening.
All right, have a seat, class, and let Fernand educate you.
From executive producer Persephone Rose.
We've all got something we're dealing with here, and sometimes things get rough.
In a city populated by monsters and demons.
I want 6 pizzas, topped with your freshest sacrificed goat.
Comes the story of a pizzeria that also sells weed.
Hey G-Man, you got any new bud flavors?
One crew must face unprecedented challenges.
Let me talk to your manager.
Anything with meat on it.
You are definitely overcharging me. Of all the terrible customer service atrocities,
We just have to push through and try our best.
Let the transference of spirits begin!
As the dough rises
Just what kind of business are you running around here, huh?
and an empire falls.
We didn't order any stinking pizza. Hey, wait! What shop did you say you were from again?
You aren't really going to kill him, are you?
I told him you'd be nothing but trouble. Imagine my surprise when it turned out I was right.
Hey, boss. Fernie's gone and lost us another driver.
Get me my silver bullet gun, now!
My offspring have a basic right to eat.
You are under arrest on cross-dimensional terrorism charges. We have extensive evidence linking you to massacres in at least 6 distinct universes.
Postal Roach Audio proudly presents Emperor Pigs, Pizza, and Cigs.
Believe it or not, we've dealt with worse situations around here.
EmperorPigs.com.